Gentlemen, hello there, welcome back to another story time video. After the encouragement on the last one, I've been encouraged, there goes my awesome vocabulary working again, to make another video almost instantly. It's been, what, a day, 2 days? And I've been inspired this time by my work to reinvigorate the Life is Strange game by playing through it again. I finally today managed to play through and redo all my decisions from the start of the game to get to the point where we left off, because I accidentally botched up a recording, and then I made a new recording of the new game and it turned out like this. Oh, this is Nathan's father. This is a message to let you know that attempts to slander and blackmail my son will be met with many lawyers. So yeah, not good at all. However, during the gameplay, I was talking about the subject of my grandfather, because Arcadia Bay in Life is Strange is a fishing village. Its main source of income is the fishing business. And it reminded me of a certain event that happened with my granddad one time. And so that's what I'm going to be covering in today's story. And so, let's set the scene, shall we? My granddad now has long since passed away. It's been probably about 2 years. Probably 2 years since he passed. I had various complications. He had to have a bag with a tube out of his hip or his body that he could pee into. I really kept myself very emotionally distant from that whole situation at the time, because I was having enough struggles as it was with regards to my autism. I just knew that he had a lot of stuff going on, and then all of a sudden I woke up one morning. I knew that I was in the hospital. I woke up one morning to my mother lying on top of me in my bed crying, and I was covered in her tears, and she was just kind of clawing at my chest and crying about her dad being dead. And that is one of the most unusual mornings I've had recently, and yeah, it was horrific and upsetting and one of the worst days of my life. But the way my body works, my autism works, the way my mind works is emotional distance. It's my defense mechanism. We all have one, to keep emotional hardship at a distance. It's just what we form up, and mine keeps everything at a distance. For example, when my mother had a cancerous tumour, I did not feel any emotion towards her whatsoever. I started feeling closed off. I did not care, and it's not because I don't love my mother, it's not because I don't care about my family, it's because of how my autism works. I can talk about this subject without feeling any emotion whatsoever. Like that, I'm not happy, I'm not sad, I'm not angry, I'm just like, it's like I've alienated myself so far from the situation that I no longer feel any pain, and that works as a defense mechanism, but for practicalities of having to deal with the situation, it can only go so far. Now, that is not what I'm going to cover. I'm not going to delve deeply into my emotional reaction and turmoil at the news of my grandfather dying, or anything like that. We're going to focus on when he was still alive and the wonderful times that I had with him. And so I'll set the scene for you here. My granddad lives up north of us, with my nan at the time. And it was about a sort of 25 to half an hour minute drive to where they would stay, so we saw them fairly regularly. Also at special occasions, birthdays, Christmases, we would all get together for a family event, and it was just fantastic. Some of the happiest times of my life took place at those events. And so if you can imagine that kind of relationship with someone, not seeing someone all the time, but looking forward immensely to the times when you did get to see them. That is how I felt towards my granddad. And there was one of these times where I think my parents had decided that they were going to go and celebrate their anniversary or some such. So they gallivanted off, hand in hand, on a plane somewhere to have adventures in a foreign country and celebrate their love for one another, which is great. I'm blessed to have parents that really appreciate and celebrate their time together. I had to be left to be, let's say, babysit or live with my granddad and my nan, who, they were, well, let's just put it simply, they were old. And coming with old age, they were very stubborn. And they had a very different ethic than my parents did, of what was right and wrong, of what I could and could not do. My granddad is a hard ass. He is... I'll cover more on why... I'll give you a good example of that later, but... And so I was staying with them. And it was a highly tentative environment for me. I had to kind of tiptoe because I didn't want to get yelled at, you know, and I was enjoying it nonetheless. And my granddad, bless his heart, he thought that I was interested in everything. He would spend hours and hours showing me these colourful plants and telling me how he'd taken care of the garden. He loved his flowers, his wildlife. He was really intent on caring for his garden. It was a beautiful garden. You'd go outside and there was a patio area, plants off to the right, beautiful roses, you know, climbing up this sculpture to the left, and then you've got the whole expanse of the green grassland ahead, and you've got these almost like it's almost like there's a wood in his backyard, but it's not trees. It's just a massive cluster of these beautiful, epic, colourful trees, which were beautiful to look at. They were absolutely stunning, and the work they did on them was fantastic, but I don't really care about gardening, to be honest. And so, you know, by about the 5th time of him taking me out to show me what to do with these plants, it was becoming really dull. And he extended that courtesy onto various other interests that he had, and one of those was fishing. He was a very avid fisherman back in his time. I believe he competed in many competitions and actually won a few of them. He was a very skilled fisherman. And where they live, it's a quite rural area. There's not much infrastructure. There's a couple of sort of diner restaurants. You know, it's not well populated, which means that it's a very nice place to just walk and be around. And there is a beautiful lake called Lightwater. And that is where my granddad would go to do his fishing. He would take my nan out for walks all the time and go down to the local newspaper shop and just, you know, they just walk. They enjoy life. And obviously, living with them for the best part of a week, I had to partake. They couldn't leave me home alone, so they took me with them. And one time, my granddad decided that I should try fishing. And if my granddad decides that you want to do something, that's over. You don't get a say. You don't have your opinion in the matter. You're gonna fish. Yeah, it's kind of how it works. And so I was up for it. I don't like the idea of hooking fish in the mouth. I think I don't think it's particularly cruel, but I didn't like the idea of it. It made me uncomfortable. Did not matter. Just get out of the way right now. And so, heading down to various shops, we picked up various equipment for the fishing trip. There were maggots to put on the things, fly traps, weights, blah blah blah. And obviously the renewal, and he bought me a fishing rod. As far as I can remember, it was him who bought me a fishing rod. I can't quite remember, but in any case, I came into possession of a fishing rod that was... It was quite... I don't know if you've ever held a fishing rod. It's quite a weighty thing, to be honest, if you extend it fully. And so, me with my little small hands, I was trying to hold this thing and walk down to the lake with him. And we arrived on the side of this massive expanse of beautiful, still, clear water, and it was so quiet and serene. Honestly, if you could have built a house there, it would have been like your own little paradise. No one would ever have disturbed you ever again. You felt like you would have to walk for miles or get into a plane to ever find civilization again, even though we were about 5 minutes from the nearest local shops. But that was the atmosphere given off by this lake, and we sat down, and my granddad started to teach me how to fish. A fascinating exercise, because the combination of my reluctance to hurt the fish and my dystonia shaking the rod made for a very unsuccessful time. And that was it. We fished for a bit, we had lunch, we gave up, we went home. Next day I wake up, the sun's shining through the window, and I sit up, and all of a sudden I catch sight of this looming dark shadow at the side of my bed. And I start to wonder, what is that? So I slowly turn my head, and there is my granddad, standing over me, not sure for how long he was there, with a fishing rod. Evidently, beyond all reason, convinced that I had thoroughly enjoyed the absence of catching any fish, and would be only too keen to do it again. We had a very quick breakfast before heading out down to the lake once again. Perching up in the same spot, the same jetty, the same wooden thing that extends over the water, we had brought camping chairs. He was very enthusiastic about what we were doing. And we opened out the chairs, sat down. My nan started to lay out the lunch for us to eat later, and I began to fish, or at least attempt to. And this goes on for about half an hour. I did actually catch 1 or 2 fish, and my granddad was very impressed with me. But I didn't want to touch them, so he had to grab them off the hook, move them, show them to me, and then he would toss them back. And I'd be very concerned every time I'd watch until they would sort of twitch again and swim away into the dark depths of the lake. All of a sudden, I hear something. I hear this tiny little noise. At first it's small and subtle, and you might not notice it. I'm pretty sure my granddad had no idea, being old and deaf. It's a little pitter-patter. That was a horrible impression, but you can imagine the sound of... It almost sounded like paper blowing in the wind when being held by a hand. You know, just that constant... And it started getting louder and louder and louder, and then voices could be heard. I could distinctly hear a man and a woman's voice getting louder and louder and louder as they came up the passageway. Now, this is about the first visit from humanity that we've had out on the lake. We haven't seen anyone else for this day and the day before. No one. And then these people are walking, and then the source of the pitter-patter sound becomes clear because they have a very small and cute dog with them, just happily, merrily strolling its way along, sort of bouncing on its paws, just being very excitable and loud and obnoxious, barking its head off now. Because it notices that there are other people too, and it's excited and it's happy because it's a very sociable animal and wants to play. Probably didn't help that at this point my nan had decided to get the sandwiches out along with the biscuits. Now, a key detail you must note here. My granddad is not a fan of dogs at all. He definitely was not fond of... I don't think he was particularly fond of any animal. There was a cat that always turned up at his house, and he would always make sure it stayed outside, which is fair enough, but he wasn't by any means keen when I bent down and started stroking it and almost inviting it in. And another detail I said I'd mention earlier, my granddad is indeed a hard ass. There was one time I remember, this is after the story that I'm telling now, but we were fishing again, and my granddad was sitting by, and he starts going, "What's that noise?" And I couldn't hear anything at this point. I was just sort of half asleep on my fishing rod, and I'm like, "What?" And then I hear too this obnoxious noise. That's the only way to describe it. And as you can probably guess, it was teenagers. A group of rowdy, I don't know if they were drunk, but they were certainly excited teenagers walking their way up the path, throwing things at each other, you know, being boisterous, being what they were. They were teenagers. They were having a day out, having a stroll. And they come across us. And one of them begins to shout to us, "Hey, you're having a good time?" And my nan, a very kind and loving woman, says, "Yes, we are, thank you." My granddad instantly is on the defensive. It's as if he knows something. I imagine he's had many of experiences like this in the past that did not turn out well, and his prejudice is judging the situation for him here. Teenagers continue to be rowdy and to be honest, rude. But can you blame them for that, being teenagers? They begin to make jeering comments towards her. One of them even took it upon himself to wolf whistle. That may still be to this day, the single biggest mistake of his entire life. My granddad, swelling up with rage, picks up his cane. This is a man who had to walk with the aid of a cane, picks it up, rises from his seat, anger propelling him forward, raises his cane in the air, and charges at these youths, who then proceed to scatter in fear of this crazy man running towards them. And my granddad stops halfway up the jetty, back towards them. These guys have all scattered in various different directions into the forests, and you can hear them sort of going, it's a crazy, you know, you can hear those yells echoing back from the woods. And Dad lowers the cane, turns around, there's nothing, walks back to the seat, sits down, and starts discussing the weather and what happened in the football game yesterday with my nan. My granddad was brilliant. In his own way, he was nothing but phenomenal. I just loved his character. And you can imagine that this is a man who takes no shiz from anybody. So when this dog comes along, or is allowed, or is not kept on a leash, he has strong opinions about that. So the dog, happy and merry and barking, jumps or pounces its way over to us, you know, just sniffing about, trying to eat the biscuits, trying to jump about, barking at me. I'd bend down and stroke it behind the ears, and its owners are standing by the side watching me have a merry little time with the dog. My granddad is fuming. He starts yelling at the couple about how they need to keep the dog on a leash. And the dog must be very confused at this point about this old man yelling. Surely there's been some kind of mistake. I'm just a dog. I'm happy. I want to see you. I've just met you, and I love you. And so the dog makes the single greatest mistake of its life. And it decides that it's going to go and introduce itself to my grandfather's legs. And this dog is about yay high. It's about, can you imagine sort of the height of my head, a bit longer, a bit higher than that? Which not only serves to make it very annoying, but also very liable to be punted viciously. Which is exactly the course of action that occurred to my granddad when the dog was in between him and the edge of the jetty. My granddad, very annoyed at this dog, as soon as it jumped up, he decides to knee it in the face, off of the side and into the water. This, of course, enraging the owners that were standing not 30 feet away from us down the path. And the guy instantly running over to make sure the dog's okay. The dog gets out long before the guy gets here. And then my granddad and this strange man engage in a long, drawn-out, hideously aggressive, shouting match with each other. I'm sitting there fishing, or at least pretending to fish. I imagine, as I held the fishing rod looking away from them out over the water, pretending not to hear anything, my face would have looked something like this. And I must have continued like that for a good while various insults and proclamations about how they were a piece of and a limey little... A lot of insults were thrown around that day before the man eventually decided that my granddad was either not worth, or he decided that he wasn't able to take my granddad in a fight, which, to be honest, this 30-something-year-old man, I'd bet on my granddad, as long as he had his cane. I reckon that man would have probably walked away with a couple of new assholes if he tried to tangle with my granddad there. And so, walking away, all of those guys with their tail between their legs, including the man as well as the dog, my granddad, again, winning a fight, turns around, goes back to me, and says, "You caught anything yet?" And by this time, I had actually had a bite or two. Obviously, I was a mite distracted, so I hadn't even realised, and the fish had managed to get off the hook and run away with the bait. He was a remarkable man. He was an absolutely remarkable man. I mean, who else would knee a stranger's dog into a pond? I have no more to say. That is the story of my grandfather at Lightwater. This giant... Well, he wasn't a giant, he was an average-sized man, but he had a giant personality, and his opinions were strong. He would make sure that you knew what he thought. He was a unique individual, truly unique. And so, gentlemen, hopefully you've enjoyed this episode of Story Time. Do let me know if you have, and I will continue to make them. I have lots of other stories involving various shenanigans that have taken place in my life. And until next time, I will bid all you gentlemen, very ambitiously, ladies, farewell. Cookie! No! No! Oh, is it gonna be? Oh, hello! 3, 2, 1, hit off! Oh, what the hell? What the hell is going on?